Hello, hi. My name is Chinwendu Sylvia Agbaetuo, and today I would like to talk on something I titled Neobrutalism in Web Design Leveraging Open Source Tools. And also, okay, I did forget to mention that I'm actually a front-end engineer and I work in Lagos, Nigeria. The goal of my talk today is to outline new brutalist principles in web design, talk about open source tools that can enable one start out with neobrutalist web interface, share examples and case studies, discuss performance, accessibility, and sustainability. Also encouraging innovation with neobrutalism. Now, this word neobrutalism, what is it actually? So it started in the mid 20th century by someone called Le Corbusier. So at that time, buildings had like a lot of ornamentation going on with it, and he thought to himself, why do we have to keep making buildings this way? Why don't we come up with something, say, emphasizes raw, unpolished aesthetics? And that was how that became a norm. So it actually started in the architectural industry. And now in web design, it actually focuses on content and functionality over decoration. To the left, to the right of this slide, we have an image of a building displaying new brutalist principles. New brutalism in design. So the things that consist of making a design new, having new brutalism with it, it has to do with colors, typography, shadows, and shapes. So we're starting with colors. We notice that the colors there are really bold and eccentric, if I can use that word here for it. And these are the things that actually make a new brutalist design stand out. This stark contrast of red, blue, pink, purple coming together all in one, and they can equally share space in a design, makes it very wonderful to use. Typography. Sans serif is the font of new brutalism designs, and you can get your hands on the fonts that are displayed Bandstraight, Clash Display, New Machine. Actually, for this presentation, we chose to use Clash Display. Shadows. This is one of the interesting things about new brutalism. I'm yet to see a new brutalist design that didn't have shadows with it. This stark contrast between the objects and the background. So it's basically having shadows go in the x-axis and also on the y-axis. You can choose to put the amount of spread that you might want. For that image there, I decided to go with 6px to the x-axis and 6px to the y-axis. Shapes. Illustrations are a beautiful way of bringing websites and adding color, bringing like websites to say have like this touch of aesthetic and making them stand out and stand out. And most times these shapes are just there to probably add like a pop of color, not necessarily pop of color, but add like a pop of frenzy into the design. So this here is an image, or I designed this actually. So to the left is a traditional design for a web or a mobile app rather, which is more like a productivity app to do for a team. Now it has basic design features with the text, the buttons, and images. Now, I decided to turn it into a new brutalist stylistic design based off of on the principles that were discussed on this slide: colors, typography, shadows, and shapes. So to the left, we use Montserrat, and to the right, I decided to use Clash Display, and we have all of that. Now, the green button onto the left seems a bit dull, but to the right, it's pronounced, it's vibrant. And if you notice on the avatars, I had like this border around it, a black border around it. For the to-do lists, we have shadows and black borders around it to give them much more pronounced, to make them more pronounced rather. Now, let's go into open source tools that actually help us to get new brutalist designs into our applications. So the first one I'll be talking about is Tailwind. Tailwind is a CSS first utility framework, and it helps us to easily whip up CSS into our web applications. And the first thing we're going to do when we want to probably inculcate new brutalistic designs into applications, it's first of all, we have to configure a tailwind period.config.js file by adding things that we need. So the major thing that we need here is our font family, and here we're going to be using the space rotics, the colors. We have our black, we have our primary colors, which are the bold colors that we talked about in the previous slide. We have a border radius, the box shadow. Box shadow is the same thing we talked about, that every new brutalistic design has to have a box shadow to make certain components pronounced, like say your cards, your buttons. The next thing we have is translate. Basically, the shadows translate on the x-axis and also on the y-axis. So we have horizontal shadow, vertical shadow, which translates towards the y-axis. And then we also have reverse horizontal shadow. So we're going to talk about that in subsequent slides. So let's see, how do we actually interpolate that into our code? So this is a normal button component, and we've done all our styling now, which is regular styling. But how do we change that button into a new brutalistic button that has new brutalism with it? So we start with, first of all, transition all. That's because we're going to be using hover on it. We put our horizontal shadows and our vertical shadows with it. Okay, so we'll come over to ShadCN. For ShadCN, ShadCN is a very wonderful CSS tool that I use because it handles everything from accessibility and also to features and functionalities for components. Now, for this, I get to define variants for my button. I want a default button, which is this. My default button has shadows and, excuse me, it has shadows and shadow to the left and shadow on the x-axis and also on the y-axis. I also have it in pressed mode where there isn't any form of shadow with it. I also have it in reverse when I want it to go in the negative x direction and also in the negative y direction. And I come, and the good thing about ShadCN is that it takes an extra step in defining all the components for you, down to even adding more components or props, rather, not components, sorry, adding more props to it. So let's talk about use cases or case studies for this concept called neobrutalism. Let's talk about Gumroad. Gumroad is a Gumroad is a startup that enables people sell their creative ideas, and this is the front page, or more rather the hero section and the navbar for their homepage. The beautiful thing about it is that they used my Maybrief Pro font, and they use bold colors. We can see pink, we can see mustard yellow, and then we can also see illustrations here. The design prioritizes functionality user engagement with striking visuals and minimal decoration. The new brutalist style sets Gumroad apart by strengthening its brand identity and ensuring fast performance. Now, there's another website I came across, which is Firefox. Amazing. I saw the new brutalism designs being used there. This is the homepage that talks about what the website is all about. And we can see at the background, there's a mesh or gradient behind it with buttons, or rather not buttons. There's a button there, and also there are cards there, which have the shadows that we talked about previously. And now Mozilla uses Zilla Slab and interfonts with a bold color scheme. They also prioritize simplicity and user engagement while using bold visuals and minimal details to enhance usability. That's what sets them apart from, and also, and one of the things about the website is that it's actually very fast and efficient. So how do we optimize optimizing in Neobrutalism? There are three major focal points for website, which is performance, accessibility, and sustainability. You can have a fancy website which does a lot of animations, graphics. It's possible you even have 3D being rendered on your website. But if it's not performing, or if the performance is really low and assets need to be probably say downloaded up to like 1 GB, it's not efficient and it might discourage potential users from using your website. So how do we optimize our websites when we're using Neobrutalism concepts with it? So the first thing we can do is to speed up load times by cutting unnecessary content and focusing on the essential things. And this is one of the things that Neobrutalism helps you, because beneath the focus of Neobrutalism is simplicity and minimalism, and these are the things that actually go into making our websites very proficient. So you can optimize typography and images to reduce file size, leverage on modern web technology like lazy loading, especially when using React, and image compression. In this time, we have images don't need to take say 3 MB or to load, because we can always change the format for a JPEG or PNG to WebP. That's the new way to actually that's the format to actually put these images on your website. Let's talk about accessibility. We have people of different, or let me rephrase that. We don't control the people who come on our websites. So as much as possible, we have to create an inclusive environment for everyone who comes into it. And Neobrutalism's bold, high contrast design can enhance readability, but must be balanced out to avoid overwhelming or excluding users with visual impairments. So how do we go about that? Use accessible color schemes. Yes, Neobrutalism allows for stark contrast of colors, but as much as that, we need to be wise in how we actually use this to get the work done. Ensure font sizes and styles are legible across devices. Having italics all through your website might not be the best choice of a font style. Implement area roles and labels. It's very important. Buttons should have a role as button, input box should have all of this role. This actually helps for people who may not be able to look at your screen, who have visual impairments, and they can actually use screen readers. Sustainability. Okay, I didn't mention previously, for performance of a website, it's advised that while building your website, while it's hosted, and while it's also hosted, you could regularly run, say every 2 weeks, you can run a lighthouse analysis on it to get metrics on how your website is doing, the health of your website, analyze and optimize your performance metrics. And for accessibility, you can use WebAIM. You just need to type in there's a search box, or there's an input box to type in the name or the domain of your website and get things working, and you can get to see where you need to improve on your website. So let's talk about sustainability. Neobrutalism's minimalism cuts speech bloats, reduce energy use and carbon footprints. And one of the things I recently found out about is actually using the website carbon calculator. And I was shocked to see the result. I need to do much more on my portfolio website to actually contribute, or rather not contribute, to the carbon footprint. Best practices minimize resource usage by avoiding excessive multimedia content, optimize hosting and delivery networks for energy efficiency. Innovation in neobrutalism. Constantly, neobrutalism is undergoing innovation and creativity to see how things can be done better. It's true that most times people tend to take things out of proportion, and in the name of neobrutalism, the major concept behind a website cannot actually be assimilated. And so the thing is, I would say keep it simple, keep your components simple, keep everything at a minimal pace, and then build up from there. The idea is to actually get the user to actually understand what they're doing without little or no assistance. And looking at the components on the screen right now are ways that we can actually design these components to make them usable for our users. There's still a lot more that can be done. Currently right now, there are some open source um, libraries that actually contributing to neobrutalism. One is UI components. There's a website for that where people can actually go and look at these components being built out and use it in their projects. And on that note, I would like to say thank you for coming to my short talk, and hopefully I get to hear about you using neobrutalism in your website and see how it goes. Thank you.